thoughts create our reality. I stopped becoming the victim and I started becoming the creator of my reality. I actually was able to manifest some pretty big things into my life, and I was able to do this rather quickly. I've never heard anybody say this feeling when they were astral projecting. It felt super real, super scary. It felt as if I was being sucked out of my body. The other side is 100% more real than here. You have no limitations. You're not limited to the five senses. And you're looking at the universe, the whole universe, the heavenly realm, the angelics, all of anything that you can think of right now is inside one container on the other side. I have been outside of the entirety of this universe. You feel like a god. There's no limitations to you. It's pure bliss and joy. The number one thing that I know for sure is that I exist outside of here.
My guest today is Andre Miller. So, Andre, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here for sure.
I have to point out that your background is so beautiful because that's a real background. You're in Bali.
Yeah, yeah. I'm currently in Bali. Yeah.
So pretty. So, I have long been fascinated with people who have the ability to get out of their body and have experiences in the astral realm. And it doesn't matter if it's through astral dreaming or astral travel. And so, I'm so curious, how in the world did this start for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so it started for me probably 4 to 5 years ago, where I became hip to the fact that our thoughts create our reality, and my current reality is a reflection of my past thoughts and actions. So I said, okay, let me see if I can reconfigure my thinking. So I did so, and I stopped uh, blaming people. I stopped becoming the victim and I started becoming the creator of my reality. I'd seen my role in every decision, every action that played out in my life and where I am in my life now. And I seen my part in it all. So I really started to do my inner work, reframing my thinking, my frame of mind, stop blaming people and took accountability. And then when I did this, I seen changes in my life. And then I said, okay. And then I got into manifestation. And I actually was able to manifest some pretty big things into my life that just solidified it to me. And I was like, okay, this is real, you know? And then from there, I got into the gateway tapes. And at this moment in time, I was blocking out everything because I also understood that everything here was frequency, energy, and vibration. So I said, okay, if everything's frequency, energy, and vibration, I should probably, and I understood that the music was played at frequencies that harmed our frequency and things of that nature. So I said, okay, let me just focus on blocking everything out and really see how strong my consciousness is. This is also when I heard of astral projection. And at the time, I didn't really know what it was. I couldn't find any information on it or like to know where I was going ahead of time. I just took the phrase literally astral projection and tried to just project my consciousness out of my body. And at this time, I was actually able to do this rather quickly in like 5 or 10 minutes. But for me, and I've never heard anybody say this feeling when they were astral projecting, it felt super real, super scary. It felt as if I was being sucked out of my body. And that sensation scared me because like I was nowhere near sleeping. Most people do this with sleeping, but like I would literally just enter a meditative state and like be projecting my consciousness out by focusing in on a single point. And that would scare me because it was such a drastic change from, being alert in the human world to being out of your body. And simultaneously to this, I was also having sleep paralysis like 3 or 4 times a week. My mom had just passed away, and she was sending me messages like, one, she was okay. I had this oversensing of joy over me, like she was okay. And then two, she was telling me, like, hey, you're on the right path. Keep going. Figure this out. You don't have to die to figure out where I am or what this place is. So at the same time as that was happening, I was experiencing sleep paralysis like 3 or 4 times a week for like months. And I never correlated leaving my body to sleep paralysis. And then that's when I found Darius online talking about sleep paralysis is a gateway to the other side. So I joined his method, and that's where I really was like, okay, now I know what the other side is because he's been doing it for years. So he has a lot of things mapped out. So I said, okay, I learned how to really control these abilities. and I was also able to navigate the other side so much easier. And that's kind of just what I've been doing ever since.
Wow. Yeah, I think I have like 15 directions I could go in from that one statement that you just made. So
Yeah.
I think I want to start with the gateway tapes because I don't think everybody is familiar with them, or maybe if they've heard of them, they don't really understand what it is because this is a technique that people have used to actually leave their body. So, will you explain how the gateway technique works?
Yeah. So the gateway tapes are a guided meditation technique founded by Robert Monroe. And these are very powerful tools. And actually, the CIA actually did a uh, a document on this, saying that it is possible for consciousness to leave their body when you're. And Robert Monroe uses binaural beats. He was working with many scientists and things of that nature, and they found out that when you listen to binaural beats and you play a slightly different frequency in the right ear and a slightly different frequency in the left ear, what this does is it creates a binaural beat in your head, so you will hear the difference. An example of this is if you have 436 hertz in your right ear and 432 hertz in your left ear, that creates the difference of a 4 hertz binaural beat. Now, why is this significant? Because it's significant for a number of reasons. Because one, our left and right hemispheres are typically operating at slightly different frequencies, and this makes us focus more on our physical senses. But when they're in coherence, when they're in sync, it allows us to focus our attention more and everything become more coherent. Now this is also now so he utilizes binaural beats in his guided meditations, which are very powerful. And along with that, he does guided meditations to kind of get you into the mind awake, body asleep rather quickly, because this is also the gateway to the other side. Your mind has to be awake, but your body has to be asleep majority of the time. So he takes you through like focus 10, which is when you enter focus 10, your mind is awake, your body is asleep. Then he enters focus 12. I believe that's where you get out of time. And then he takes you through these different focuses, and each focus takes you farther and farther and farther beyond. So that's kind of where I started doing this. Yeah.
The binaural beats are so interesting. And from what I understand, it's not like you can just take any sound, for example, a hertz that you mentioned on YouTube, and project this. You have to have a specific grade of headphone. You have to have non compressed frequency music in
Mm.
order to really create the state of being. And I think Tom Campbell was one of the early adopters. And I know the CIA actually had a program where they were using these techniques to spy on other countries and get information and
Yeah.
intelligence. So there's definitely credibility behind this. But I know that I've talked to a few people who have not been able to make the binaural beats work. So can you give us a couple of tips on what you learned about using them that might be helpful if somebody watching is interested in trying to achieve this state?
Yeah. So essentially, it is scientifically proven that binaural beats do alter your state, but it's also important to understand that your belief system also plays a role. Like the placebo effect is real. So like if you believe it's going to work, that helps anything, right? So your belief in it is also going to help. Aside from that, it's kind of just like you said, you have to ensure that you're listening to pure frequencies. Like a lot of people may listen to these just on YouTube. Well, there's actual tapes or CDs of the gateway tapes to listen to, and those actually have better frequencies to listen to. Your headphones do matter. It's good to have some noise canceling headphones like these. Primarily ones that plug in, because everything is frequency, energy, and vibration. So Bluetooth will also mess up that frequency. Um, those are just some of the tips, uh, for sure.
That's super helpful. And you did mention vibration, frequency, and energy, which Tesla has talked about, but you also connected that earlier to thoughts creating reality. And I know from interviewing so many people on the other side from NDE experiences that this is how things exist when we're not in our human state. And we can manifest, but sometimes it takes longer. It's not instantaneous. So you uncovered a couple of keys here early on for yourself. where you realized that your thoughts were creating the reality that you were experiencing. And you also said that you started figuring out how to manifest. So I would love for you to share a couple of examples of manifestation and the thoughts and how you were actually really able to tie that back to see that it was directly affecting your life.
Yeah, certainly. So the biggest manifestation I did was manifest in my project aerospace engineering job, where I was a program manager for multiple space programs for customers like Lockheed Martin, Boeing Satellites, NASA, just to name a few. So I was actually managing these space programs, and we were making measurement instruments for these spacecrafts. Um, Now, when I first, so I became an engineering technician, right, with my resume and things like that. So I became an engineering technician, and I was promised upon becoming an engineering technician that I would be promoted to an engineer, just a regular manufacturing engineer upon graduation. But that didn't sit for me because I was about 4 years away from graduation. So I said, no, it has to happen sooner. So what I did was I started to dress like I was an engineer. I started to talk like I was an engineer. I started to think like I was an engineer already. When I was conversing with people, I conversed as if I was on that level, right? Now, what this does when you're thinking on these levels, your brain is not the source of your thoughts. Your brain is just a receiver, right? So if you're able to change your thinking here, you're able to then receive other information on that same frequency of thinking. You see? So I was actually able, as I was doing this, I was getting more and more and more into it. And I was also at night, I would also do meditations and I would just sit and envision what would I feel like. I actually envisioned the scene of me getting the promotion, you see, and what I would feel like, how I would see it, what I would say back to my VP of engineering. And when I got the promotion, I would see all of these things and feel it, and I would believe it was going to happen. I did not allow anything to deter me. I told everybody around me that, hey, I'm going to be an engineer and it's going to happen very soon. And there was a lot of doubters around me, and I'm like, no, this is going to happen. Like, why can't it? I know I'm very smart. I know I'm smarter than the people I'm talking to. Why can't it? So you have to have this overpowering beliefs in you. Your belief has to overpower the circumstance. You see, you have to understand that you can do this. You truly have to believe it, and you have to become these things. Now, also with this, I remember sitting at my desk at work and saying, doing a quick meditation practice where I would take 3 deep breaths and enter a meditative state rather quickly. Because also at this time, I blocked out all external sources. I wasn't listening to media, wasn't listening to music. The only thing I would listen to was 4 hertz binaural beats. So my consciousness was extremely focused at this time. Now, I remember sitting at my desk doing this meditation practice and saying, okay, now my manager or my VP of engineering, who was my boss, is now going to give me an assignment that will put me in alignment with this job that I want. And at the time, I had my eyes set on being a project engineer, not just a manufacturing engineer. I wanted to be a project engineer because we were the program managers. We were the big guys, right? It's like a manager among engineers. So that's the position I wanted. And as I envisioned this, 20 minutes later, my VP of engineering would come knocking on my desk and say, "Hey, can you help this project engineer with this task?" And I said, "Sure, of course." That's exactly what I wanted. Another example of this is we had a room that was off limits due to proprietary information being in there. So I said, I want to see what's in that room. 45 minutes later, I got assigned a task to do in that room, which was super rare. And I was like, okay, so these things are working. And then I remember setting a date saying, I'm going to be an engineer. I remember the date by November 2nd. I said, I'm going to be an engineer by November 2nd. This was September. Well, October 31st on Halloween, 2 days before November 2nd, I got the promotion, and it was so magical. It was I actually took somebody else's job, another project engineer's job. So I was outside, I was vaping at the time. I was outside vaping, and I see my VP of engineering walking out this other project engineer, and then he holds the door open for me. Now that's symbolic in its own sense, right? And then as soon as I get back to my desk, he calls me in his office and I have the promotion. And I was like, wow. So that's what really cemented it for me was the fact that I actually set a date and it happened before that date. When even my boss told me, it's not going to happen for another 4 years. So that was very powerful confirmations for me.
Wow, that's a lot of a lot of things lining up, not just one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned 4 hertz was the only thing that you were listening to. What's the significance of 4 hertz?
Well, I knew 4 hertz put yourself in the delta state, and I knew the delta state was the lowest brainwave frequency. So everything that I do, I try to take it to like the most extreme length. So I didn't even want to play around with any of the higher frequencies. Like I sometimes I would listen to like just 436 hertz frequency just by itself. And like some of the higher frequency music, but primarily all I would listen to was 4 hertz binaural beats because it a lot I just that's what Robert Monroe used in his Gateway tape. So I was able to find beats with just that, without the meditations, just 4 hertz binaural beats, because I love that state that you're able to get in. And when you listen to 4 hertz, that delta state, that's where like all of your thoughts, all of your visions can come in. It was just such a beautiful frequency. And I felt so powerful. Like I literally, when I would be thinking, I would literally feel my brain connecting. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now I'm channeling. Now I was able to take control in the room in meetings because I know everybody else is operating at a certain frequency. So I was then able to, take control of any situation for my favor. And that's also when I was like, yo, this stuff is really powerful because everybody else around you is asleep and they don't know these things. So when you do, you're able to do so many things. And then that's kind of when I stopped actually like manifesting and taking advantage of these things because it became easy. Easy.
You also mentioned that the brain is a receiver. And I think that there are probably a lot of people who are watching who that's a new concept for them. So explain what you
Mm,
mean by the brain just being the receiver and not actually generating the consciousness.
okay. All right. So the brain is just a receiver. It just fires neurons, right? It's an electrical receiver, right? Your brain just sends impulses. Now, how I know 100% that your brain is just a receiver and not the source of your consciousness is because I'm able to leave my body. I'm able to take my physical soul outside of my body, you see. Now, and when I do this, my consciousness stays the same. I have been outside of my physical body. I have seen my body on the physical bed, so I know I am not in it. However, my thoughts are still the same. I'm physical. I have hands. I'm touching things. I'm conversing with other beings. All of these, you just know 100% that you are you. And your thoughts stay the same when you leave your body. So obviously, your brain is not the source of your consciousness. Your consciousness is what's fueling the body. You see, your soul is what is fueling the body, you know and this we were taught completely wrong about our physical body the entire time. We think our heart is just a pump to pump blood. Well, no, your heart actually projects a magnetic field. This has been measured with squid sensors and things like that. We can literally test the magnetic field that our heart generates, and it's this magnetic field that actually keeps your soul in your body, you see. uh, um, and your brain is literally so you can think of your brain as like a radio. As you tune your thinking, you'll be able to receive different frequencies, different signals, and you can actually try this out if you just pay attention to your thoughts, right? In every situation that happens, be conscious of your thoughts. Do you think negatively? When something happens, do you think negatively? Do you automatically go into panic mode or fear when something bad happens? Well, if you do, the chances of that bad thing happening are more likely. Now, if you can catch it and say, something, you heard some bad news. Now, if you retrain your thinking to only think positive outcomes, you will start to see only positive outcomes happening. You see.
Hmm. That's an interesting thought. I haven't heard anybody say it quite that way. But the other part I want to point out is that I feel like we talk about this a lot on the channels, that everything is happening for you and not to you. And sometimes when things that we would judge as negative happen, they have a purpose. It's maybe holding you back and keeping you in a place so that something else that you're trying to work on can come in. So I agree, but also at the same time, everything that we would perceive as negative that happens to us doesn't necessarily have a bad outcome. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that is correct as well. Everything that's bad that happens to you does not have a negative outcome. But we are creator beings by design. We always have the free will to create and to change our outcomes. One thing that some things in here are fixed, like you can't change. Like there are certain life events of yours that you have to experience, right? That is 100% fact. But in between those event markers, you have free will to create whatever you desire, you see. And that is very true because we never know how things line up. And the first time I realized this is after a major out of body one time. I came back and I was so connected to the other side. I was actually able to see events playing out in my mind's eye. Like if somebody would say something to me, I'd say, okay, if you do that, then this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. I was able to see that everything is all connected. You're right on your path, you're right where you need to be, you know. So certainly, you know, that is also true as well. There's tons of paradoxes in here when we try to analyze these things as humans, there's tons of paradoxes, but everything can everything can be true at the same time. Yeah.
I love that. And I also think that there's so many different truths. There is no one black and white. There are so many levels of gray.
There are a lot of levels of gray. Yeah, there are. There certainly are. But some fundamental truths though that I have came to know is that we are each our own like individualized God, you can say. Now, when I say this, I'm saying this because in comparison to humans, the being that we depict as God in the Bible is literally who we are when we leave our body. When you shed this physical avatar, that is literally you. You have the power to love everybody the same way God does. You are all knowing the same way God is. You have the power to create universes the same way God does. You see? So I forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Was we were talking about how some things are destined and fixed and some things are not. That was where you started.
Okay, yeah. So we are completely the infinite. I knew I was going to try to take that another route, but it just slipped. It just lost me. Maybe it will come back.
Yeah, no worries. That's how these things
Yeah.
work anyway. Well, I would love to hear some examples of astral experiences you have, like maybe the very first time it happened. And I've also heard people say that they've got to be really careful when they are leaving the body because you have to not get excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving the body, because that'll put you right back in, or have any fear. So if you could pepper some of the experience with the things that you also understand that you need to do with your kind of your excitement level, I think that that would be important too, as
Yeah.
people want to try and do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly. So, well, the first time I was leaving, like I said, it was like in a 5 or 10 minute meditation. I was just forcing my consciousness out. And when that process started, there was no stopping it. It was actually so hard for me to even try to stop it. If I wanted to open up my eyes, nothing was stopping this. So like I was coming out. I had initiated that process so strong. So the first times I was coming out, just through the will of my soul, I was out. And now the first times I was coming out, I was just like boom, I was getting sucked out of my body. I was trying to fight it, and then eventually I would just give in and boom, I'd be out. Now, the first time I left, I was just out in this all white area. It was so beautiful, so blissful. I had no idea where I was. But once I was out, I was scared. I was in the most beautiful, magnificent place, but I was scared because I had no idea where I was. I was like, oh crap, like this is real. I got scared instantly back in my body. Because what this does is fear or excitement puts you back into your body. It raises your physical body because you're always connected to your body until this physical body dies or until you decide to not come back and stay on the other side. You're always tied to this body. So if your emotions get too high or too low, you'll be right back in the body. You'll start waking up your physical body, and it's kind of like telling the universe, okay, you're not ready for this. Like just go back, right? In a sense. Now now when I learn how to control and induce these states in different ways, such as, laying still until I hit sleep paralysis, or setting my intention and becoming aware throughout the night. Now, those states, those are tricky because when you're in this state and you're the whole purpose is to consciously relax your physical body, allow your physical body to shut down while your mind still stays aware. That's the whole trick to it. So what happens if you excite your if you feel excited, or if you have fear, you will go into it. You will be right back into your body and kind of get out of this state. But I will say that, when you're in these states, it does feel weird. I remember hearing loud booms, or all of a sudden being in this strong vibrational phase, you see? Now, at this moment, it's very important that you stay calm. And if you wake up, when I say strong vibrations, it's literally you feel like you're having a seizure. But I can promise you it's not your physical body. It is your soul experiencing this. It's your soul's frequency rising. I know this because one night I was shaking so uncontrollably. I heard my teeth chattering and everything. And I was sleeping next to my partner, and I woke up and I asked her, I said, "Hey, did you feel me shaking?" She said, "No, not at all." And she was awake. She was like, "No, not at all." So I said, "Okay." That's the first time I was like, "Okay, now I know this is my soul's frequency rising." So when you wake up in these states, the whole key is to relax. If you wake up in sleep paralysis and you're afraid, the entire key is to just relax, right? Because what this is going to do is it's going to allow your physical body to shut down more. It's going to allow your heart, electromagnetic pump of your heart, to the electromagnetic field to weaken, right? And this is your exit point. And just past these sensations, like, that's where your heaven awaits you. So like when the vibrational phase comes, I do techniques like, okay, I allow these vibrations to deepen, and then I'll actually feel them get stronger, and then that's like when my soul's frequency finishes rising and I'm able to exit.
Wow. All right. Well, give us some more examples of places that you have gone, because I know that you're not just staying in your location where your body is, you're traveling all over the place on the planet and then outside of our earthly planet. So you can start kind of wherever I guess you'd like to.
Yeah, yeah. So for a long time, probably for like 3 or 6 months, maybe I don't know the time now. But for a while there, I was just leaving in my room. I was just, in my room, checking things out, seeing the environment. Like, can I walk through the wall? Can I try to see time events? Can I see my physical body on the bed? Can I see my partner? Okay, can I make out a number on a whiteboard? Can I go into my neighborhood and see some things? Can I fly? I was just like figuring out all of these first time things, right? But then the first time that I actually wanted to leave the framework of Earth, I just had a strong desire. So I set my intention to access my soul records, along with an accompanying feeling of I want to leave Earth. I don't want anything to do with here, right? So this is when I went through my mirror, because mirrors are portals. So I went through my mirror. If you're ever out of your body and you see a mirror, try to go through it, right? Touch your hand through it. If it feels liquid, go through it. It's a portal. Now, when I first entered my mirror, I was in this magnetic vortex. It's this like vortex of energy, and it was water all around me. What I can best describe as the firmament, right? Now, I just knew I was in this portal. Immediately when I was in there, I just tried to, sit still. I was like, okay, I'm in here. This must be a portal, right? So where is it going to take me? Well, it didn't take me anywhere. So I was like, all right, I must have to move. So I'm touching the left wall, touching the right wall. I can't really go anywhere. So I touched forward, and that was empty. So that's the path I walk. And as I'm walking through this tunnel of water surrounding me, and the energy was crazy. It sounded like if you were underneath Niagara Falls. Like, it was so much energy. Now, on the other side of that, when I came out on the other side of that, I was in this big city. And this is where I met my spirit guide, Francis, or they call them spirit guides, but really it's just like a friend, somebody that I knew for a long time. And when I found him, I said, oh, as soon as I seen him, I was like, yo, I was like, who, what's up? What's your name? He was like, I'm Francis. As soon as he said Francis, it triggered my soul's memory to say, oh, I know you. Now, when I said I know you, I didn't remember where I knew him from. I just knew I knew him and like I knew he was a friend. And I said, "What's up, man?" I was like, "Yo, where am I? Like, what is this?" Because this is the first time like I'm somewhere where like I don't know. And he was like, "Oh, you're a Neo Soul," and I was like, "Oh, Neo Soul." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Well, what year is it here?" Right? Because I'm thinking in linear time. So I'm like, "What year is it here?" He goes, "2015 here." But when he signals down, I received more information from his signal, like telepathically, than I did with the words that he said. With this one gesture, I understood, oh, okay, so I'm obviously outside of the framework of Earth, somewhere in a city called Neo Sol, and here they label time differently. But here it's 2015. But I had no correlation to the time there to the time it was on Earth, right? And then I look, I see another, I'm inside of another physical body, but I was able to make out, I see myself in a reflection on one of the buildings, and I was able to make out, oh, it's still me. I was able to see my eyes and my cheekbones, and I was like, yo, this is still me. I'm just in another body. So then I'm like, all right, Francis, so what do I do here? And this is when he took me to my house. I met my wife, and I experienced in this one experience, I experienced three different lifetimes of mine. So Neo Soul is a place that's so there are more land masses here on Earth than what we are told. You know what I mean? They are beyond the poles. Now that's where Neo Soul is. So it is still here, but it is beyond the poles. And now these humans here would be what we consider the human extraterrestrials, you see, because like if they're not from here, have you ever heard people say, oh, there's human ETs, human looking ETs out there? Well, there are. There are. There are a lot of human looking ETs. There's a tall blondes, there's all of these, but these would also be considered human extraterrestrials, the humans there in Neo Sol. And actually, they just came from Earth. We were able to find that out too through later out of body experiences. So I have been there. I have seen another lifetime of mine is an Octorian one time, and that whole life was just me. I was just seeing scenes of that life as if to help me understand, okay, to help me understand, okay, why do I think how I think here? Why do I have this level of intelligence now in this life? And it's because of that. Because there we were so smart and so advanced, and I was a smart out Arcturians are a smart race, and I was a smart Arcturian. So it was, that made sense to me. So I was just seeing scenes of like okay, how are we doing our math equations? How are we making our ships fly and stuff like that? And that it just blew my mind. That was a lot of information there. I had been to the halls of Amenti under the pyramids. Now that's a completely round template itself, and that's a place of records of that time period. That is really intense. I have been to what people consider the heavenly realm, right? Heaven is a real place, and you don't have to die to get there. We can all access these things. Now, everything that I'm saying, everybody listening has the ability to do this and see these things for themselves, 100%. And heaven is a real place. And the first time I went there, my mom took me. Yeah, my mom passed away, several years ago, and she took me and she was just showing me like, "Hey, Andre, see, I'm okay. Everything is good." She was like, "This is amazing. This is like where I'm at." And I was just like, "Wow, that feeling there, like I'm feeling it now again as I'm saying it. Like that was probably like the most heartfelt feeling. I don't have the words to say it, but I will say that the realms are in layers. You see, realm one is the lowest frequency, highest dense realm. Realm heaven is like 4 or 5 realms above this. You see, heaven is like the fifth realm. Now, if that means that the frequency of heaven is so much higher. So, what is frequency? How can we describe frequency? We can describe it by our feelings, right? If I told you to raise your frequency, what are you going to do? You're going to change your inner world, your feelings, right? Your thoughts. That's how. So, if heaven's such a high frequency, the feeling there is so much grander than the feeling here, right? That's the best way I can describe it. It's pure bliss, pure bliss. Now, I have also been outside of this universe, outside of this construct, and looking in on it, I was like, okay, it does look like a snow globe, and I was able to look in on it, and I was able to see the different realms in here. And if I focus a certain point, I could make out one realm over another. And I was like, oh, okay. So everything is subjective to the observer, you see? So when I change my frequency, but through my intention and my feelings and thoughts, I'm able to see different frequencies of light within this construct. And I was also able, there was other universes there as well. Um, I've been to the void. I've been, void is like the closest thing to source. And there's other planes of existence outside of this universe as well. There's a plane of existence with the many creations. There's a plane of existence where like there's just these light, like energy beings. Um, there's the void, which is another plane of existence. Now the void is like the closest thing to source. You see, it's like when you're in the void, it's like it's dark, you can't hear anything, you don't see anything, you're just like in complete bliss and like complete peace. And it's like everything at the same time, but like you don't have to think of it. And you feel so connected to source. You feel like you are everything, but still you at the same time. You see? Yeah, yeah.
So when you're over there having these experiences, you're seeing different things. And in the earth realm, you talked about leaving your room, going into your neighborhood, looking at things on a board. Can you give me some examples of evidential evidence that you were able to confirm later that you had no knowledge of before you saw it in the astral place?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, and there's different dimensions within this realm too, where you can see different things, and these become really prevalent out of your body. Like dream spaces are a dimensional space. There's actual dimensional space outside of here that's like a physical copy of this place with other thought forms in there. There's a consensus reality where souls are living here, all in this realm alone. So it's really big. But yeah, in time, you're able to decide, okay, differentiate, okay, and what I'm viewing is what I'm viewing. Is this real time? Like, or is this another dimension, or like, where am I, right? And it's all based off feeling. Like, you just know things, you just have a feeling after a while. But yeah, certainly. So I was part of this group where we did workshops where we try to target numbers on a whiteboard. And I've done this. I've had my stepdaughter write a number on a whiteboard that I had no knowledge of. I've came out of my body and I've seen this. Um, I've had that happen, and that was confirmation, for me. And that shocked everybody in my house. But it wasn't like when I'm having these experiences, I don't feel the need to prove it to anybody or to prove it to anything. But that is something that you are able to do for sure, to prove it to people you know, that may be in doubt or something. But when the best way to prove it to you is I can tell you how you can do it yourself, and then you would know. That's honestly the best evidence is to just tell other people, hey, you can do this, and then because when you're out of your body and you have all this background knowledge that I have, like if I tell you, hey, you're going to be physical, you can see this, your memories start to come back, you see, and you'll just know, oh, I've been here before. I am an eternal soul. This is the other side. This is my home. So like that's really the best evidence, is for everybody to experience this for themselves. Because even then, like, all right, I can have somebody write a number on a whiteboard. I can come out of my body and see it. You may still doubt that or something. But yeah, you can certainly do all of that. Now, another example of this is I was out of my body, because you can see thought forms. Thoughts are physical, right? So I was out of my body one time and I seen my wife doing something, and I'm like, yo, like what were you doing? Like what were you doing? Or she was talking to somebody, and then later on she was like, oh yeah, I had a conversation with him that day. She was talking to somebody on the phone. I seen it. And she was like, I was like, hey, were you talking to somebody? She was like, oh yeah, I talked to him earlier in the day. And I was like, wow. Now that was like in the early on stages, and that shocked me. Another thing that where I'm like, okay, am I really seeing this, was I was out of my body one time and I seen a seraphim. A seraphim came for me. If nobody knows what a seraphim is, it's like the highest form of an angel. They come in like this hooded type figure. Now I was out of my body and I seen it. And earlier in that day, my ex-wife was sleeping. She was like in this in-between state, and she woke up and she just had this look in her eye, like, what is that? and and I didn't understand what was going on. And then I had this out of body experience, And I'm telling her about it the next day. I'm like, yo, I was out of my body. I seen this tall hooded being. It was like stern and full of wisdom. And she just looked at me shocked. She was like, that's what I seen when I woke up from my nap. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. And she was like, yeah. She was like, it was so real. I thought it was you. And I'm like, okay, so we're definitely seeing the same thing here. Like what's going on? Yeah.
I completely agree with you that experience trumps faith in something, because once it happens to you and it's so real, nobody can take that away from you. And that's such a beautiful thing. But I'm also curious because I listen to a lot of different talks where people have shared that there's all kinds of ancient wisdom stored throughout this planet. I know a lot of the Templars have artifacts. I know that the Vatican stores a lot of artifacts.
Mhm.
And I would imagine in this state, there are no secrets. You can see if you have the conscious will to see something. So I would love to know, what were some of the most surprising things that you were able to see that you were like, wow, I only thought that that might be real, but now I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Let's not say
um,
anything though that gets you taken out. Let's just say that. Just kidding.
yeah, yeah. But well, I did publicly state that, adrenochrome and child sacrificing is real. There's tons of rabbit holes about that, but this is the first time I've seen this is true. So I was actually under the Vatican and I was searching there because I know there's archives and stuff, and there's tons of books. It's not as in depth as like the halls of Amenti. Like it's really like just like a human type of archive, but there are tons of things on there. There's other bodies. They know everything. Everything that I'm telling you guys, like the Vatican knows for sure. But I was under there in one of these halls, and um I did see some sacrificing going on. And at the time, I didn't understand what it was. I was like, why are they doing this? Like, what are they like? What is the purpose of this? And then that's when I was like, oh. And then I've seen something online about adrenochrome, and I'm like, oh, that is real. Then, because if I seen them I seen these hooded beings. Two of them were not human. I didn't understand why or like what was going on, and then that's when I seen adrenochrome, and I'm like, oh, it's for that purpose, and it's for that purpose, and that just shook me, and I said, wow, so everything is real. Like all the conspiracy theories, 99% of them are true. The biggest one is space is fake, but that's a rabbit hole where I lose a lot of people. Uh, we don't know what happens when we die. I'm so far out of the conspiracy theories now because I just understand these things that it's hard for me to reflect back on things that I was finding out that was true. But I will say that like 99% of all these conspiracy theories are true. Yeah, for sure.
So I guess in doing all of these things, do you get to a point where there's no point in going back in and doing the astral travel, or is there so much exploration you wouldn't have enough time to explore everything?
There is so much exploration that you don't have time to explore everything for sure. And then from there, it comes down to a personal level, like how bad do you want it? But yeah, this one universe that we are in is huge. It's it's still huge. Now there's multiple realms. Darius has been able to map out that there's exactly 12 realms in here. Now, each realm is huge. It's massive. It's all the size of Earth, you see? And there's also tons of dimensions within each realm, an infinite number of dimensions. So there's infinite numbers of other realities inside of this one realm, right? For souls to experience outside of here. It's so massive. And then outside of this one universe, there's an infinite number of universes, and then there's also other planes of existence. It's massive. There's no ending. You're never going to get bored outside of your body. But I will say that there does become a point in your life where it's like, okay, I've seen enough. I understand. I have this vast wisdom, this vast knowledge. I understand enough to come back and teach people, tell people about the nature of reality, where we are, and how things work. And then there becomes a time where it's like, okay, because it does take a lot of effort to do these things, and you kind of have to be in a good state. But there does come a point where it's like, okay, do what's more important? Am I focusing on my real life now or physical life, or do I want to travel? And you really have to have a strong inner desire to want to see these things, because the will of your soul must triumph the physical attachment to this body. The will of your soul to leave it must triumph it. And that's like the will of your soul and your intention must like really triumph anything else to leave. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you understand now the nature of reality and how things work. So, in the limited human words that we have, can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So essentially, everything here, what you're seeing, everything here is frequency, energy, and vibration. What you're seeing here is not the whole reality. This is just your physical reality. Your reality is only subjective to is relative to your frequency, the frequency of the observer. Now, in these physical bodies, there's like speed limits on it that prevents us to access these things. They are still accessible through intense levels of meditation and training. It's like a muscle, you have to work it out. But essentially, as you raise your frequency, you're able to see other things, other light. Now, light is also physical, because what are photons? Photons are light molecules. Photons are inside of every atom, so light is also physical. So as you access more of the light spectrum, you're actually accessing more physicality as well. A lot of people think that the other side is just airy fairy and spiritual. No, it's physical. Everything in this universe is physical. Anytime you're in this universe, you're going to see physical beings. Now, if you do see a being that's like light or something, it's because they're still at a higher frequency than you. You see, that's why they may appear fuzzy or like a ghost or something like that. But as you're able to raise your frequency and match that of what you're observing, they will also appear physical. Now, when I said that space is fake, it is, and I've mapped out the mechanics of this realm, how it works. So if space is fake, okay, what makes the sun move around? What makes the moon phases? What makes all of that? So I was able to put that together. Um, I'm able to map out different dimensions out of body. Why people claim they see different things, and it's all subjective. It's because you're in different dimensions, and I was able to identify 3 dimensions within this realm alone. And I'm calling them realm one, dimension A, realm one, dimension B, realm one, dimension C, just for a naming structure. And I'm starting to map out even more. I'm able to, I understand who we are. We're infinite souls. We come from source. We're each individual. We're each an individualized spark of source, right? From the infinite, from all that there ever is. Um, for sure. Yeah.
So, how do things work? What is the purpose of the human incarnation, the human experience?
Yeah, so it's really you actually just said it. It's experience, right? To experience what it's like to have limitations. Because outside of here, I can promise you, we are all our own individualized gods. So now if you're an all infinite being, but you don't know what it's like to have limitations, or you don't know what it's like to be a human, right? You have no idea what it's like to be a human. So you are not an all-knowing being at that moment, you see? So you have to experience what it's like to have limitations to know everything, to be an all-knowing being. But you have to truly know what it's like to have limitations to appreciate your divinity. Because I promise you guys, when you leave here, whether you die, have an out-of-body experience, or a near-death experience, that sensation when you leave here and you step back into your soul form, it's such a beautiful and freeing feeling, because you just came from being the smallest thing in all of creation, of humans, to then being the infinite again. That feeling, that contrast is so great. And you have so much more appreciation for the other side. Because if you were just an almighty God playing in your heaven and your desires all the time, you don't even truly appreciate it. It's the same comparison as if it was sunny days all the time. We would never really even appreciate the sun. And to really appreciate a sunny day, you have to have a rainy day. You see, you have to know what a rainy day is like. And then you're like, oh God, thank you so much for the sun. Thank you so much. It's a sunny day. Or if you're in a country where it's snowing in the wintertime, you're never gonna, and when you have a nice sunny day, you're like, oh yes, finally, it's so nice out. It's the same thing, as above, so below. So when you come down to this human life and you step back into your divinity, you have such a grander appreciation and a more perceptional wisdom because now you know what it's like to come into forgetfulness, to have limitations, because the soul has no limitations, you see.
So, when you've been out of your body and traveling across these realms, have you had an experience with Source?
Yeah, the closest thing to source would be like the void, and the source is just like this field of all things. You're always tapped into it. You can always go back to it. You know what I mean? You can always go back to it. Now, out of my body, I've never seen an almighty being or nothing like that, but I have been to the void, and you just know, okay, I am source out of here. You just know that you are always connected to it. It's just this field of all things. It's the fabric of all of creation. It's everything is made out of it. We're all sparks from it. So, I mean, outside of your body, you're always pretty much connected to source. The best feeling that I can describe it is your memories and your power just comes back to you. Like, and all things. Like that's probably the best way I can describe it. Yeah.
So, when you're on the other side and you know all things, and I've had a lot of NDEers talk about this, and usually they're able to bring little pieces back, but they're never able to bring back everything they know. On a percentage, Andre, what percent of knowledge that you've come to understand when you're in that place of non limitation have you actually been able to bring back with you?
Okay. This is a good thing. So, by an example, now, when I first come back from an out of body, it's as if I know everything and I am still connected to the other side. It is not until I eat food here or even have a limiting conversation here that snaps my consciousness back to, oh, I'm a human. Like an example of this is I was super connected to the other side. I knew everything. I was still receiving crazy downloads. Any question that I had, I instantly had the answer to. And it was not until I had a conversation with my dad and I was telling him about these things, and he put his fear and limiting beliefs in me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is." And then I had the thought, "Oh yeah, this is my dad. I have to listen to him," and that put me back into the human perspective. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a human. I have a dad, and things like that." I was like, oh, wow. So then at that point, you're cut off from the other side still. And it's just because of your frame of mind and the frequencies here. The frequency here is so low. Everybody in their limited thoughts and belief systems here, it's such a low frequency place. It truly is. But it's I still have the knowledge, the major points of my experience, I still have those. But as far as like the ongoing continuation, that cuts off the moment I indulge more in human life again. Like if I'm eating food. Now, if I was on a fast, like a 30-day fast, and I was completely isolated, I would retain so much more information. You see, repeatedly. We have the ability to keep all the information. And this is also when I learned, okay, when I come back, my body does fry out with the information because we are electromagnetic beings. So as I have more information, it literally fries me out. It's like I'm so electric. Now, I that's when I learned, okay, the healthier my physical body is, the more information I can retain. This is when I started eating healthier, taking eating seriously. I was already kind of eating like once a day, but would cheat. So I started eating more fruits, things with that conduce electricity, because what
Like,
that
give me an
allows
example. Give
is
me an example of something that conducts electricity that you eat.
any fruit or has electricity. I've done experiments where I've stuck a voltmeter in a watermelon and it has an electrical charge. Now, if you stick that same voltmeter in dead meat, there is no electrical charge in there. You see, so you're eating things with electricity in them to help conduce electricity. I drink salt water to help conduce my electricity. Now in Bali, I drink more coconut water to help conduce my electricity in my body, because pure water has really no value to you. You're supposed to get your water from fruit, H3O2, a structured water, not H2O. You're supposed to get waters from H3O2. That's the structured water that your cells actually need. So like coconut water is the best thing. But yeah, I was just clearing out my physical vessel and blocking out all limiting beliefs. And I also found out that even me working my job put me in a frame of thinking that I'm not able to free my mind to understand the other side and to put these massive presentations together for people. So literally just being conscious of everything of your surroundings here, because this is the hardest game on earth. And there's tons of traps here. There's tons of traps, media, TV, limiting beliefs, religion. There's tons of traps here. So if you just can isolate yourself and clear out your vessel, you're able to bring back so much more information. I have found that out. Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
as a percentage, to answer your question, I remember 100% of the experience for sure in detail. Now, in time, it fades because you're not thinking about it all the time. But if you write it down, it will trigger it to come back. You can remember 100% of your out of body experience. But the insights gained from those experiences, like the revelations that you have out of your body, I'd say you remember the important ones. Because if you remember everything, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot. So there's a percentage I'd say anywhere between like 50 and 75%, depending on what it was I was accessing. Yeah.
Wow, that's definitely higher than I would have guessed. I thought you would say like 10 to 15%.
No, yeah, when you that's the difference between an out of body experience and a near death experience is because you're doing this with the intention to remember. When you have a near death experience, you're just whipped into it. You don't even know what's going on. You don't even know these things are possible or real. You just know like, oh wow, I'm here, and it's overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. As soon as you leave your body, it is overwhelming. It's like holy crap. Like it's so overwhelming. So if it's just happening in one quick experience, you weren't prepared for it, you just died and now probably a painful tragic death if you're having a near death experience and you're there and it's going to be overwhelming, so they don't receive a lot of information. They can kind of just come back and say like what they seen and what they saw, but when you're able to do this consciously and you know where you're going and you're doing this with the intention to remember information, that changes the game, you see.
Yeah. The other thing I will add, though, about the NDE, since I've talked to so many of them, is that they do always come back saying, I can connect into this memory and I can remember exactly as if it's happening right now. It doesn't fade for them over time. It stays super sharp. And they always say it seems more real than this reality. And I would love to know if you feel the same. Does that other side, astral area, seem more real than the earthly experience that you're in right now?
100%, 100%. The other side is 100% more real than here. 100%, it's more physical. You have more access to the light spectrum. You're outside of your physical body. You have no limitations. You're not limited to the five senses. You're not operating at your full awareness. It's 100% more realer than here. And yeah, you can tap back into the experiences for sure. And it's almost as if you're still in that moment. And I've actually left my body by doing so, by matching that frequency to that. But what I will say is after you've had so many of them, it is harder to tap into an individual experience to remember. But I remember like the big ones for sure. Like my first time doing something, those are ones that stick out more to me. But for sure, if you just having one experience or one out of body or yeah, you will be able to remember that so clear, so vivid. Yeah, 100%.
Wow. Well, the last thing I think I want to ask you about are these dimensional realms that you spoke about, that there were mapped to be 12 of them. How high have you been able to reach in those dimensions to have an experience in?
All right. So there's the for name and structure, there's realms, and then inside realms there are dimensions, right? But in the realms, I have been to realm 8, which is the seraphim realm. They came to me quite often in the beginning to deliver me messages and give me certain tasks to do in this life. Now, that's probably the highest realm that I have been to inside of this universe, but I have been outside of the entirety of this universe. So like essentially I'm outside of all borders, boundaries, or limitations at that point. Because anytime you're in this universe, you're in still a realm. So you're in a template still. But I have been outside of everything. Yeah.
And what did it feel when you were outside of everything? What did it feel like?
Overwhelming at first because it's the first time it was like, wow, it's like your whole worldview comes to a shatter because you're like, I thought I was a smart human. Like I thought, I knew what this was. And then you're outside of it and you're looking at the universe, the whole universe, the heavenly realm, the angelics, all of anything that you can think of right now is inside one container on the other side. You see? So that's an overwhelming, surreal feeling. Um, but it's so beautiful. You also feel so connected and so loving, and you feel like an infinite. You feel like a god. You feel like a god. There's no limitations to you. It's pure bliss and joy as well, But when you think of it in the human sense, at first, it is like a shock. It's like, wow, I'm really out, like that realization does come to you. Yeah.
Did you still have your Andre-ness where you were like, I still do remember the human life and what I'm doing right now, and then I'm out of my human body having this experience?
You always remember that you're out of your body. Yeah, I remember my intention that I'm out of my body, but it's also as if like I don't care about Andre at that moment. I am in my soul form, the eternal. Like Andre life, this human life is just a blink of an eye. It's just a speck on the eternal scale of the infinite of my soul. So like I don't care when I'm out. Like I don't care about Andre. I don't think about nothing that's going on. But I do consciously have the thoughts that like, okay, I'm out of my body. What do I want to access? Where do I go? Like my thoughts around that stay the same. But as far as like attachments that Andre has, they're gone. I have no attachments there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, beautiful. This is so fascinating. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people watching right now who would love to know how they can connect with you to have more information about how to do what you've been doing.
Yeah, certainly. I have a website, thealchemist369.com. There's a
Will you
members only
spell it?
section
Because
there.
some people just listen to these.
Yeah, The Alchemist 369, TheAlchemist 369.com. Yeah, guys can find me there. I have all my links. I have a members only section, an option to work with me one on one. All that good stuff can be found there.
Beautiful. Well, Andre, I'm going to ask you one final question. What do you feel that you know for sure?
The number one thing that I know for sure is that I exist outside of here. We are all each our own individualized God, and the other side is home. This is not base reality. Our true selves exist over there. This is the dream. Over there is the real life. That's what I know 100%.
I agree. Well, if people are watching right now, I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. I'd love to hear, like, if you could get out of your body, what would you want to go and see and experience and understand? Or if you just got this far, just type in waking up the collective or collective because that really helps the channel. So, Andre, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for reaching out to me, for wanting to come on and share your experiences with my audience, because what you're doing is helping to wake up the collective, and it is so needed right now.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these beautiful experiences with somebody who needs it. And if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays live at 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Still have questions? Well, join me live for Wake Up Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll answer your questions, and you might see a familiar face. Together, we're waking up the collective. Thank you for watching.